the late summer of 2007, I had a store owner come to our house and ask to see the journals, frames, and letters I had been making. By the time she had left, she had purchased many of the items laid out on our dining room table, and then on her way out of our neighborhood, she saw someone she knew and she sold one of my journals for twice what she bought it for. That was it for me. That was what helped me to see that people were connecting with my art. I could sell directly and for more money. So, in the fall of 2007, I participated in my first ever craft show. It was a small holiday show at a local preschool, and it was the most perfect small beginnings for me to get my feet wet. I had a simple table with all my journals, frames, and altered letters laid out, and almost every single piece I had made sold. I had never made that much money since I had worked full-time before Jack was born. I packed up what was left after the show was over and I headed home. As I was driving home, I had an idea to stop at a local shop that often carried artisan goods. I asked them if they were interested in buying what was left and then buy more in the future if they sold. They said yes. I went home with an empty car, a full heart, and a defining moment in our business and in my creativity. It was after this show that I opened an Etsy shop. It is so important to me that you see our simple and humble beginnings. I never want you to compare our business now, 13 years in, and not see where we started and how we gradually grew and diversified. It was truly a slow and steady climb, and I believe it has made all of the difference. I want you to see the paper products, the DIY offerings, poor photos, and horrible lighting. I want you to honestly see that I truly started with what I had and really did my best. And at the time, this was my best. I only learned how to get better in all of the ways by putting things out there, trying to see what would work, and then through experience, learning what would make my business and product more professional. That means that with hindsight, you may be less than impressed with what that may look like, but you will always be impressed with how you put yourself out there and how you figured it out. Don't get ready, get started. Perry Klebon. Each time I styled a photo, set up a photography area in our basement, took photos at 1 a.m. with horrible yellow tinged lighting, or listed items on Etsy, I was at one point or another doing each thing for the very first time. And I'm not ashamed of these beginnings. These beginnings got me where I am now. Welcome truly to the beginning of our business. This would have been in 2007 and some of the very first offerings I ever listed on Etsy. And even with the simple offerings and horrible lighting, do you notice the sold under each one? It didn't have to be perfect for people to buy them. Those first years, I was creating journals, frames, plaques, altered wooden letters, handmade jewelry, little girls' clothing, aprons, and even bags. I have never sewn anything, and I've always had someone else sewing, and often it was my sweet mom. During this time, I started a blog, and our little business was gaining momentum. I was selling consistently on Etsy. My blog was gaining traction. I was making connections. Our bags had been featured in magazines, and I had even had an incredible sale at the Country Living Fair in Ohio. A few years into our business, I attended a women's entrepreneurial conference in Chicago. It was geared more towards beginning business builders, and I was excited to learn and meet new people. During one of the breaks, I turned to the women to my right, introduced myself, and as everyone was exchanging business cards, they made a comment about mine. I had a postcard-sized card that showed images of what we created along with how to reach me. One of the women looked at my card and said, "Oh, she uses Amy's fabric," and snickered a little with her friends. She then let me know that she designs her own fabric. All three women kind of laughed with each other, and then the break was over and the next speaker was about to begin. And I want to tell you something really important here. Sometimes someone will try to make you feel small, because this did, and someone will try to embarrass you. This did. Sometimes the message will be unkind or cruel, because this was. But there can sometimes be really good messages hidden within it all if you're able to hear it. Sometimes not, but sometimes there may be a gem in there for you. At the time, we were making bags and aprons using designer fabrics from Amy Butler and a few other designers. And until this woman had said something, it never occurred to me that by using her fabrics, I was promoting her and not my designs. Never occurred to me that I could never stand apart and never really grow like I wanted using fabrics by Amy Butler. So even though the delivery was not kind, she did me the biggest favor. She helped me see that I was, number one, promoting Amy Butler every time I made any of our soft goods, and that people saw her fabric before they ever saw my designs. And two, I'd never be able to grow without changing our fabrics. Three, that it was time to look at our business more long term than just in the moment. And four, to be kind. Always be kind. Never try to make ourselves appear better or more successful by making someone else feel small. So, guess what I did? I started using vintage fabrics and also natural fibers like linens and grain sacks for our bags. I even started using muslin for our aprons and ruffled totes. And do you know what? It changed everything. Just think, if I had not been able to get over the poor delivery and I had missed the bigger message, I honestly wish I could remember her name because I owe her a huge thank you. I am where I am today because of her. This was another defining moment in our business. The only way to stand out is to double down on you. Chase Jarvis. At this time, I also started offering my goods in collections instead of adding things to the shop haphazardly. By collections, I mean this was one of my first intentional marketing plans. I would gather, curate, and create goods to go together in a collection. The bags, aprons, vintage items, jewelry, etc. would all feel good together. This not only made it easier to photograph, but it also made it so much prettier to look at, especially because we were still using Etsy. Our business name was A Bushel and a Peck, and as I talked about in Module 2, this was based upon a song that my mom used to sing to me, and I also sung to my own kids. And it never occurred to me to search to see if we could even use this name or how you name a business. It just meant something to me, and I needed a name to open my Etsy shop, website, and blog. The trends at the time were very layered and scrapbook-like, as you can tell from my original blog banner. It may be hard to believe, but this was on trend, and I paid a designer for it. In 2011, we began to manufacture our soft goods. It was very important to me to have our clothing and bags made in the US, and we were able to find a small manufacturer in Denver that would do small runs of a few hundred at a time of each piece we were offering. They were able to cut 100 dresses or bags at once, and for the first time, we were able to offer our customers different sizes in dresses and more inventory in our bags that would sell out within hours. We were shipping out 100 camera bags at a time as fast as more could be made. It was a very fun time of being recognized for our products, and it was such a thrill to see our customers sharing our purchases all over their blogs and on Facebook groups. And keep in mind that Instagram and Pinterest had only just started at this time. And this was also the first time that because we had more inventory, we could also send our product to influencers. The downside was not working with individual artisans and being frustrated that we were often lied to about production times, delivery, and many times when we finally received our order, they were full of mistakes and they had to be fixed. And all of this delayed our lines being released. We did this for about 3 years and decided that I enjoyed working with individual artisans. By returning to artisans, I would not have as large of an inventory, but I was happier with the relationships, quality, and lack of stress. Sometimes bigger isn't always better. I would also like to add that growing up, I had wanted to go to design school, and I love how often we are later given the chance to walk out something we'd been holding on to, and we can walk away from it out of choice. I had been holding on to that dream for a long time, and it was such a gift to let go of it on my own terms. It was around the same time that I also offered my very first online course on our own platform. Creatively Made, Rediscovering the Beauty of Your Gifts was my first online course, and we offered it on Kajabi. This first course changed the trajectory of our whole business. With a $200 camcorder, I created a course that brought in $35,000. We later moved our creative network to Ning, and we now have our own site that is hosted on our own server. I could never have reached, connected, and served our customers to the extent we can without online offerings. By creating our own courses and also collaborating with artists from all over the world, we now have over 160 online courses as of this date with over 90 teachers. Collaborations have always been at the heart of our business from the very beginning. The stores that ordered wholesale, the artists that asked me to teach, the hosts that asked me to lead a workshop, the bloggers that shared my new collections, the artists that said yes to me hosting their online courses, the magazines that featured us, and each of our customers that also became beautiful collaborators. I think you can see our successes and not remember or know about the things that didn't take off or were complete failures. We have had courses not do well, product ideas that didn't connect with our customers, and even major releases like our little jean clothing line that just were not the right fit for our customer base. Our bags and clothing lines sold like crazy, but our customers didn't want to pay the same for their children or grandchildren. We made our money back, but the numbers didn't lie, and it wasn't something we were so passionate about we were willing to try again and again. What was always at the heart of our business, though, was good design, beautiful products you use, attention to detail, and vintage elements whenever possible. And this is true to this day. We also love including little things like hand embroidery on our vintage grain sack bags. This hand-stitched detail is honoring of our brand and also my love of France. We started off with the altered journals, frames, and letters, vintage items, handmade jewelry, aprons, bags, and dresses. As our business grew, I created and sold more art, created online courses, live workshops, and the living studio, our overseas art and exploring trips. But a successful business offers products, services, and experiences. So to this day, we want our customers to hold something of ours in their hands, and that is why we don't plan on not offering our vintage items, artisan goods, art supplies, bags, and specialty art kits anytime soon. We just don't offer collections as often as we used to. Do you remember from Module 1 when I talked about protecting what matters? Well, in 2017, we did just that. It was time to move, and having a bigger studio space was the prerequisite for anything we were looking at. This was the year that we bought 7 acres, our current home, and took a workshop and made it to my studio. It wasn't going to be just for me, though. We were wanting this to be a gathering place for creatives and to offer live workshops that we had never been able to dream up before. There were so many parts of our business that we'll talk about later when we talk about diversifying, but I wanted you to see the evolution. More than anything, I wanted you to see the beginning and not compare where you are starting with where we are now. Don't do that with any business or any business owner. Where you are right now needs you to show up and use your gifts. The favor will follow as you put yourself out there, and there will be lots of failures and lots of wins and probably some people that say things that hurt your heart, but maybe, just maybe, there's a gem in there among the rubble.